Hey everybody, today I'm talking about my top 10 chilled board games. Now for me, these are all games that I find fairly relaxing. I just enjoy the process, don't care about winning or losing, and the stakes generally feel quite low in these games. Now I'll be doing two of these videos, one of which is slightly longer games, and the next video I'll do will be kind of filler games, so chilled fillers. But before I get started on these top 10 games, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer. And if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. At number 10, I have Picture Perfect, which is an incredibly unique game where you are trying to arrange all of these characters in a particular order to suit all of their wants and needs, and it's all based around taking this kind of group photo. So some characters might say, I want to be stood next to this character, or I want to be stood in the back row or next to the table, and each character has, I think, a couple, 2 or 3 different conditions. And as the game goes on, you are drip-fed more information, and you're trying to retain this information and kind of jiggle all your characters around to get them in the optimal place, ready for final scoring. That's pretty much what the game entails. Again, I don't really care about what the other players do in this one. I just want to try and crack the code and get as many right as I possibly can. So a really enjoyable one, definitely a game that stands out from amongst the pack because it is such a quirky and charming theme, and the mechanisms suit the theme really well. So that is Picture Perfect at number 10. At number 9, I have Karuba. Now this is a game I've played a ton of over the years. And this game has a bingo feel to it, as each round you're going to be drawing a tile and everybody will be placing that particular tile on their own personal grid. And the idea is you are trying to get these adventurers to their matching coloured temples with the most optimal route. So all you're doing is you're either placing these tiles on your grid to try and build those pathways, or cashing those tiles in to move your adventurer along those roads. There is a race aspect to it where you want to be the first player to get each of the colours to their respective temples to get some bonus points, but all in all, again, I don't really care about what my opponents are doing. Maybe in more niche circumstances I will do, but generally I've got my head down in my sheet just trying to map things out and make sure I'm not wasting any movement. Lovely family weight game, again, one that you can play over and over again without getting too tired of it actually. A lovely one, that is Karuba at number 9. At number 8, I have My Farm Shop. Now this is a twist on the space-based mechanism, or the Machikoro mechanism, where each round you are rolling 3 dice. You're going to use one of those dice, or a die, to draft a card and add it to your personal player board, and the other 2 will trigger a particular card on your player board, depending on the number they add up to. So if you have a 6 and a 2 left, your number 8 card will activate, and those cards will either give you resources or they will give you a conversion where you can convert resources into victory points. And that's all the game entails. You're just trying to collect resources and convert them as optimally as possible. You've got some mitigation tools through these sacks where you can modify the pip values, and you've even got a degree of engine building where you can add these little sunflowers to increase the yield or the resources that you get from these particular locations. And it's nice just to tweak your little engine to try and make it work as efficiently as possible. You can even just focus on a couple of those resources if you want to. That matched with a strict capacity on how many resources you can keep. It's loose enough to enjoy, but tight enough not to be boring. And again, you can just focus on your own engine and just try to keep it chugging along and spitting those points out as fast as possible, really. So it's a lovely one, definitely my favourite of the Machikoro style games of style of game, and it's definitely an underrated game that's flown under the radar, and by a great designer too, with Rudiger Dorn. But for some reason this one didn't really take off. I think maybe the aesthetic didn't help too much, but the gameplay is rock solid and definitely caters to a wide array of different players. So that is My Farm Shop at number 8. At number 7, I have Diatoms. Now, this is a game that's actually not out yet. I was quite fortunate to play a pre-production copy. And this is a hybrid, kind of puzzly style game with some tile placement as you're placing a tile. And when you're matching these colours, you are getting different sizes or different shapes and colours of these little crystals, which you'll be placing on your player board. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to build certain patterns or formations of these crystals to score points. So some of them might score based on symmetries or being next to other colours or just purely having a specific colour. And you can even tweak the difficulty or the tightness of the gameplay through these variable scoring conditions. So some of them might be really easy to achieve, some of them might be a bit trickier to pull off with a lower margin of error, but I just always found myself just enjoying just building up my my player board, creating this lovely pattern with these bright colours. And again, I never really found myself looking at the other players or thinking too much about my scoring. I just wanted to do the best I could. I think this one could be a sleeper hit, and I hope it is, because the gameplay is really charming and it's quite a relaxing game, in my opinion. So that is Diatoms at number 7. At number 6, I have Trekking Through History. Now this is a wonderfully produced set collection game where you're collecting points in two different ways really. The first of which is through drafting these cards, which will come kind of assigned to different historical events going from very early ages up to fairly modern. And what you're doing is you're playing these cards in chronological order and without breaking that kind of time lapse. And if you do break that pattern or you can't take a card to continue your timeline, then you'll have to start again, but you are rewarded for having kind of the longer chains without those broken patterns. And on top of that, you are collecting these coloured tokens which you are using to populate these little scoring sheets that will score you points based on filling them in from top to bottom. And if you create or complete certain lines of them, then you get some bonus points as well. So this is one of those games where everything just feels good. I think the production really does help it because it's a lovely, lavish, deluxe feeling game with some solid mechanisms, lovely artwork, and it's just a joy to play really. I never really tired of this one because I thought it just felt good to play it. So that is Trekking Through History at number 6. At number 5, I have Hooky. Now this is a competitive deduction-based word game where you are trying to work out which letters are in or out of the fold of letters available. So basically at the start of the game, each player will get given an arrangement of letters. And then throughout the game, the other players will be asking clues of you to try and deduce what those letters could be by providing 5-letter words. And then they will provide you back with a number with how many letters they've got correct within that word. So again, think Wordle. But the twist on this game is that there are certain, I think there's 3 letters that are completely taken out of the mix when you are going to get given a fairly hefty amount of points if you work out what those missing letters are. So you can kind of tunnel vision and try to work out what these letters could be very precisely, or you can cast a wider net to try and maybe catch those stray letters that haven't been used yet. Again, I really do not care about winning or losing this game. It's a kind of a personal challenge for me to see if I can solve which letters are, what the answer is. But it's a nice one. I generally do like these deduction-based word games. There's some good ones out there. Hooky is a very good one, and I enjoy it a lot. So that is Hooky at number 5. At number 4, I have a brand new one with Harmonies. So this is another puzzly style game where you are trying to place these little blocks as efficiently as possible to try and match as many different patterns as you can. So these blocks will come in different colours, like browns for trees or greens for bushes, greys for your mountains and so on. And not only are you trying to build these kind of organisms such as the mountains and the and the trees, etc., to get some points, but you're also trying to complete these objective cards by building the habitats of these different creatures. And each of these patterns are interesting because you can use inversions to score particular formations multiple times. So it's kind of an optimization puzzle, trying not to waste any placement, trying to kind of bleed one pattern into the next pattern. You are restricted by the tiles you can draft because it has this kind of cluster mechanism where each tile or each lot of tiles will come in a group of 3. So there might be 2 there that you really need and 1 that you might need to decide what to do with later, but you are forced to place them immediately so that, are you going to use it to add towards a pattern, or are you going to say, let's ignore the patterns, let's just build a huge tree with it instead. So I think it strikes that perfect balance between being restrictive but still giving you the freedom to score multiple different things. And it's just nice to keep on, again, using the pre-made foundations that you've already made in previous turns to contribute towards new patterns. So again, that constant almost kaleidoscope of those patterns being created as you're going through the game. Out of all of these pattern-based games, I think at the moment this is a clear favourite for me, and there are so many out there which goes to show the quality and the pedigree of this game. I think it's a wonderful design, extremely charming, and I can see why so many people love it, including myself. So that is Harmonies at number 4. At number 3, I have Dixit, which is the first party game on this list. Now, Dixit, I'm sure most of you guys have played this one. So this is a game where you are giving clues based on these lovely cards that you have in your hand, and wonderful, bright and imaginative illustrations. And you can give clues in any format you like. You can give words, songs, tunes, whatever you want. And then basically all the other players are going to choose a card from their hand based on that clue as well. They're all going to get mixed together, all revealed, and then people are going to vote what they think that original card was. And it's got a cool kind of scoring system where if you're the clue giver, you want to be obvious enough so that at least one person votes for you, but not too obvious where everybody votes for you. And even if it's not your turn and people vote for your card, then you'll get some bonus points as well. So this is a game, even if you have no idea what the original clue giver is alluding to, you can just get some points just by default by people landing on you. And it just, again, the stakes feel so low in this game, but it's still constantly, you know, full of laughter and good moments. And you get to look at some lovely cards as well while you are playing it. So definitely a must-try style party game. I think some people could bounce off it because they might question where the gameplay really is. But for me, I think it's such a whimsical, such a light-hearted experience, and I've never not enjoyed a game of Dixit. At number 2, I have Ingenius. Now for me, Ingenius has really filled this niche in my collection where if I want something to play that's fairly easy to understand with some very light rules, but isn't brain dead, so you know, if I've had a long day and I'm very tired, but I still want to play something that isn't stupid, then Ingenius is a great one to go to because you just have your rack of tiles, you're trying to place these tiles onto this board to try and create these chains of particular colours or shapes. And because there are options, but not too many options at any time, it just feels like you're not overwhelmed or paralysed with decisions, but you still might have a few little tweaks to make sure you're placing optimally, and you know what shape to prioritise first. So again, it doesn't throw too many decisions at you, but it doesn't leave you with no decisions to make at all. That mixed with the pressure of the scoring, where you know you want to be making sure that all of your scores are topped up because only your lowest one will be your final score. I think it just strikes that perfect balance between being accessible but still clever, but still again not overwhelming at any time. So I definitely feel like I can just talk to my friends and just enjoy the process when playing Ingenius, but still doesn't feel like we're just playing something for the sake of it. So a great Knizia. This is Ingenius at number 2. And finally, at number 1, I have Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Now, this is a little bit of a cheat because it's the only cooperative game on the list, so there is no competitive nature to the game. But I think if you've played this one, you can probably see where I'm coming from. I've always found this very relaxing. I found it very low stakes, where I can just go through things at my own pace, not have to worry about how long it's taking, and I just normally make an evening of it, to be honest. So if you're not aware of this game, you are essentially trying to solve some kind of murder mystery or mystery in general by reading through these newspapers, visiting different people through this address book, reading through a story, this kind of thing. There's some good writing. It's quite immersive in terms of the the dialogue used and the people and places you're visiting. And it's one of those games where you can just get some friends over, get some food and drink out, and just make an evening of it, rather than trying to squeeze as many board games you can in an evening, like I definitely do sometimes. But yeah, this one I like to just block everything else out and just enjoy the experience and get immersed in it. So it's definitely a game that stood the test of time. It's been around for a long time now, tons of different versions of the game. Sometimes you have to be a bit more forgiving of the game because sometimes the leaps of logic are quite large, and you have to just understand that. But despite that, I just try to do the best I can and answer those questions that are asked of you at the end of the game. You can put some pressure on yourself if you want to play that way by trying to compete against Sherlock himself, but I'd advise not doing that because he's just too good, and he scores ridiculous scores. But still, definitely a unique and distinct vibe of a game, very atmospheric, very enjoyable and just relaxing in my opinion. That is Sherlock Holmes, a consulting detective, at number 1. So there we have it, that concludes the video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. Again, there will be a second video of this nature, chilled filler games, and not like some of these are long, but these next ones will be even shorter again. But if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel and check out my other content too. But for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.